Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode on the podcast. Today, we have a fantastic episode, and we've got some fantastic talk points to bring up on the show. UFC 294 shenanigans. We've got UFC Vegas 81 and 80 to talk about. First of all, though, we'll go over to my co-host. Obviously, that's Oscar Silva. How's it going over there?
It's going fine, man. I'm very excited for what's to come in the fight world very soon. We have multiple fighting events this Saturday, and the UFC has just announced the new main event and the co-main event for UFC 294 on October 21st in Abu Dhabi. I believe that we actually ended up getting superior fights in the end. In the main event, it was supposed to be the rematch between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. Instead, Charles Oliveira pulls out due to a cut on his eyebrow, and in steps Volkanovski, who went to a split decision with Islam Makhachev earlier this year, back in February in Australia. Now it's on Islam Makhachev's home turf, if you will, not his home country, but he will have a lot of support there. And I think this is about as high level as you get in this sport today. Both men are in the top three of the UFC's pound for pound list, and many felt that Volkanovski won their first meeting. So now we're going to see if Volkanovski can right that wrong on just 11 days' notice. This is going to be one of the craziest lead ups into a UFC pay per view in a long time. I would say the craziest lead up to a pay per view since September of last year, when we had Hamza Chimaev versus Diaz, replaced by Diaz versus Tony Ferguson. So that is mad. And if we thought things couldn't get any crazier, in the co-main event, Kamaru Usman steps in on short notice as well to take on the powerful Hamza Chimaev. Hamza Chimaev was supposed to face Paulo Costa, and now Kamaru Usman, the former welterweight champion, is moving up a weight class. And should he win this fight, he will get a rematch with Sean Strickland, who he dominated back in 2017. Either way, I think Sean Strickland's first title defense will not be an easy one. What do you make of these new matchups?
I love them. You put it perfectly. In hindsight, I reckon we got a much better card. A really, really good card. We're talking about obviously Kamaru Usman, former champion of the world, stepping in at short notice. Alexander Volkanovski stepping in at short notice to go again at that lightweight belt against Islam Makhachev. There's only one sport in the world where this can happen, and that is MMA. There is nothing like it. A good fighter falls out, Kamaru Usman steps in. It's crazy. Paulo Costa out, Kamaru Usman in. That doesn't happen in any other sport. You don't see that in boxing. You don't see that anywhere else. Only in MMA, and that's why we love the sport. A fantastic fight, much better fights. Hamza Chimaev now repping Abu Dhabi, so he'll be fighting essentially in his home country.
Yeah, he used to represent Sweden, but now he is in Abu Dhabi, and he's flying the United Arab Emirates flag now. And of course, Paulo Costa was going to give him a real challenge, but man, Kamaru Usman, this guy could really make a serious career comeback. A lot of people were already saying that this guy was going to have a sad decline, and now he's in a fight that I believe is not unwinnable. I do think that Hamza Chimaev does have some holes in his game. He can be reckless at times, and Kamaru Usman has shown that he's very good at switching up the game plan here and there. So it's a very interesting fight. And the main event, it's also a champion moving up a weight class. Once again, Volkanovski. But this time, he doesn't have the proper time to bulk up, and he doesn't have the proper time to focus solely on defending takedowns. So it's going to be a really tall task for Volkanovski and Usman. But if either of them win, it's going to be a massive story, and they're going to get a ton of respect from the MMA community. Not to mention they've already gotten a ton of respect for signing the contract anyway against these absolute monsters. I would say that both guys are the most feared men in their weight class because they have this outstanding wrestling style that very few people can handle. So we're going to get an amazing product October 21st, and I cannot be more excited. And the rest of the card is super fun as well.
Absolutely agree. I'm looking forward to it. Fantastic fight. Is Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski in the main event. Kamaru Usman, the former welterweight champion of the world, versus Hamzat Chimaev, the hottest prospect in the UFC. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great night. But that is not until next week's episode. So you're going to have to tune in next week and make sure you
Yeah,
join us then.
we'll
But
have
this
a guest as
weekend,
well.
oh, yeah, we will. You'll have to wait and find out to see who that is. No spoilers as of yet, Mr. Oscar. So we'll tune in. Actually, no, we'll start with the recap. UFC Vegas 80. We'll keep it short and sweet because we've got UFC, obviously, Vegas 81 this weekend. So I'll bring up the card. We'll talk about the main event. And we talked about it last week. 2023 is a weird year. You never know what's going to happen. And Bobby Green knocks out Grant Dawson in 31 seconds.
Yeah, this was completely unexpected. Not to mention the way that it happened. Bobby Green was not expected to win, period. He was facing Dawson, who was undefeated in the UFC. He had a really good win streak going outside of the UFC as well. And Bobby Green knocks him out in 33 seconds. 33 seconds. Bobby Green is actually known as a guy who usually wins by decision in the UFC. But his last two fights, he's gotten emphatic finishes. He has put his opponents to sleep, Tony Ferguson and Grant Dawson. And now he finds himself in the UFC's top 15 rankings. Dawson was the 10th ranked lightweight heading into this one, so it's possible that Bobby Green takes his spot. Uh, this was completely unexpected. Grant Dawson definitely has to work on the striking defense. Bobby Green just caught him very clean, and it was a jab. It was absolutely nuts. Bobby Green might be having his Jorge Masvidal moment.
Absolutely. A little bit of a career resurgence from Bobby Green. He's always been good, but not really good enough to get to the top 50, top 10, if you know what I mean. But now he's ranked number 13, I believe. So maybe this is his prime of his career, even though he's, past the age of that, in statistics and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, fantastic win for Bobby Green. And it'd just be interesting to see the matchups up next for him. I would love to see that Dan Hooker versus Bobby Green matchup. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't everyone?
Yeah, there's so many good matchups for Bobby Green. You could run back the Drew Dober fight, who got a knockout on this card too. You got Jalen Turner out there. Renato Moicano wants some. I think any mix of these fighters would make for an exciting fight.
Completely agree. Looking forward to it to see what's next. In the co-main event, we had Be Like Joe Pyfer. Ladies and gentlemen, he's showcasing everything about his game, why he is one of the best prospects in the game as well. Be Like Joe Pyfer, Dana White said, and he did himself, if that makes any sense. Any English coming out there. But yeah, B. Joe Pyfer did what Joe Pyfer does, gets that second round arm triangle choke versus a really tough, really durable, well, no, I wouldn't say durable, really tough, really, game Abdul Razak Al Hassan. And he kind of made it look easy. He put him away, dispatched him, and he improves to 12-2. What do you make of Joe Pyfer's performance?
Joe Piper looked outstanding here. He was fighting a guy that is super powerful. You got to watch out for the knockout power. And Joe Piper was planning on knocking him out on the feet, but once he got kicked right of the nerve by those leg kicks, he decided to out grapple. Abdul Razak Hassan, who's a black belt in judo, he takes him down very easily, and then he gets this incredible arm triangle, chokes him unconscious. I was very impressed with Joe Piper here. We've only seen him knock guys out on the feet so far in the UFC. So to see him out handle and manhandle a guy like Abdul is really impressive. This guy's got a lot of
Absolutely.
power wherever the fight goes.
Absolutely. Fantastic co-main event. Joe Python gets it done. And we'll move it over to the other main card fight. Joaquin Buckley versus Alex Morono. Um, this one, we picked Alex Morono, I believe. Joaquin Buckley gets it done by decision.
Joaquin Buckley, as I predicted, would have a serious physicality advantage here. I thought he would get a knockout, but Morono was able to stay safe just enough. But I did score round three a 10-8 for Buckley. Morono was wobbly on his feet the majority of that round, and Buckley simply had his way with him. He even showed some wrestling out there too. Uh, Buckley has looked better and better with each fight, I think, and his cardio has improved leaps and bounds from I would say just a year ago. If you remember that Nasruddin Imavov fight in Paris, he was really slowing down, but in this fight he looked like he was just getting going in that third round. So really, really nice stuff from Buckley.
Absolutely. Jockey Bucky gets the win, and so does Drew Dober in the first round. 2 minutes and 36 seconds. Knocks his opponent out. TKO finish over a very durable Ricky Glenn, who's been around the game for a very, very long time. So a fantastic win, and obviously back in that win column as well. So it was an important win for Drew Dober, but he gets it done. A good win, a sensible win, and now he looks on to the future to bigger and better matchups, hopefully in that top 15.
Yeah, I really would like to see Buckley mix it up with Brian Battle next. Both guys wanted that matchup in the past.
Sorry, I had to blow my nose, but I was talking about Drew Dober.
Oh, sorry there. I got a little distracted. But as for Drew Dober did what I thought he would do out there. He knocked out Ricky Glenn in impressive fashion. Uh, Ricky Glenn looked like he didn't want to be in there as soon as he got clipped with the first left hand there. Dober is a monster, and I would love to see him get back in the top 15. He's a guy that will always put on an exciting fight.
Completely agree. We move over to the last main card fight, and that was Bill Algeo versus Alexander Hernandez. An important one for Alexander Hernandez. He's been on a bit of a rough skid, a few traded wins there and there, but it has not looked great for him. Since that Beneil Dariush knockout, it has looked awful. Another loss at featherweight. He tried to drop down. Nothing seems to be going his way. Another loss against a tough Bill Algeo. Bill Algeo put it all together on the feet, everything. He looked good that night, but you got to look at the hard lines that Alexander Hernandez has been through the last few years. What went wrong? How good was Bill Algeo this night?
Bill Algeo looked incredible this whole fight. Hernandez, I didn't feel like he ever got going. He was not able to get Bill Algeo's respect. Algeo was so unorthodox. He was not as hittable as I thought he would be. Uh, just across the board, Algeo was firing on all cylinders. It looked like he was seeing every punch that Hernandez was throwing at him. I just feel like Hernandez maybe peaked with the Beneil Dariush fight. If we're being honest, I thought this guy would improve, but we're just not seeing it. And especially at featherweight, where you would think he would have a size advantage of some sort, it's not working out that well for him. Bill Algeo looked really clean in this fight.
Absolutely agree. We'll move on to the next fight. The first fight of the evening is, and obviously the first prelim fight that we were talking about. And if we're talking about career resurgences, we're talking about this lady right here. We're talking about Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Since she returned back to the UFC after a short layoff, she's gone 4 back-to-back wins. She's looking good. She got a win over Felice Herrig, Sylvia Gomez Juarez, Vanessa Domlopez, and now Diana Belbuita. She's looking good. Yes, there have been decisions, not very pretty, but she's getting the job done. She's learning from her mistakes, and that's what I feel like we're seeing here now. 34 years old, seemingly looks like she's going to maybe have another run in the rankings. What did you think of her this night?
Yeah, Kovalkiewicz is really gotten back in a flow state in some of these fights. It really looked like she was struggling against some of these fighters. The Jessica Penne fight I thought was very winnable for her, but she just made the wrong mistake there. Now that she's gotten a new jiu-jitsu coach, I really believe that she's leveled up. But we didn't see much of that jiu-jitsu here. Her wrestling was not good enough to take Belbita down continuously. Carolina had a strike with her, and she just landed the better shot. The uppercut was there for her all night. Belbita really got busted up there. Um, Belbita's still very young, does not have many quality wins. I was quite confident that Carolina would get it done wherever we saw the fight go, and that's what happened there. She got the unanimous decision.
Absolutely. The first 4 fights of the evening, the first 3 went to decision, but Nate Maness kicks off the card with the first decision of the night. And it was a fantastic knockout, ground and pound victory. Nate Maness, he's kind of been up and down inside the UFC with a record of 4-2. Obviously, his last 2 come via a loss. But before that, he was looking good. Knockout of Tony Gravely, submission versus Luke Sanders. So he had that talent, he had showcased it, but he had them 2 back-to-back losses against. May we add Russian wrestlers, so there is no shame in them last 2 losses against Ulan Nurmagomedov and Tagir Ulanbekov. But now he returns back to the win column with a fantastic victory, a ground and pound victory. What do you make of Nate Maness? Was you impressed? And obviously, yeah, was you impressed?
I was very impressed. I thought Nate Maness had his work cut out for him, but Mateus Mendaka would not give up on that leg lock, and he left himself open to get put to sleep there by Nate Maness. Maness really needed this win, so good for him. If he would have not won this fight, he might have been cut because, as you said, he was on a 2-fight streak of losing.
Absolutely. When you get to the free lose streak, it's kind of a bit of a ropey situation. If it's DSC, you can definitely get cut. Moving over to the next fight, Vanessa Demopoulos taking on Kanaka Murata. Heading into this one, Vanessa Demopoulos really needed this win, and she got, I would say, overlooked a little bit. She got decision. But what are your thoughts on this one? Obviously, Dominiopoulos needed this one. She lost against Karolina Kovacevic in her last bout, so it was a big one. She needed to get the job done, and she did. If you look at her UFC record, she's 4-2. Only lost to Karolina Kovacevic and JJ Aldridge in her UFC debut. So it's not really that bad of a record. But do you feel like we overlooked her a little bit?
I feel like we didn't. I feel like she lost this fight. She failed at what she needed to do, which was avoid getting taken down. She got taken down. She got held down. She did not do anything of significance off of her back, no matter what she says. If you want to talk about the second round, which was the closest round of the fight, she only landed 2 more strikes than Murata. And she didn't hurt her or anything. She didn't cut her open. And there was even a headbutt that opened up because, a cut that opened up because of a headbutt. So that was not the damage causer there, Demopoulos. So I thought Murata did what she needed to do to win this fight. I feel like she should not be disappointed in herself because she fought a good fight for those 2 rounds. Sure, that round 1 was a Demopoulos round. Demopoulos was clearly a better striker here. Murata has some of the worst striking in the whole division, but the wrestling is serviceable, and I think she did enough.
Yeah, a close one to call, absolutely. Moving on to the next one, Arishi Lang takes on Johnny Munoz Jr. I talked about last week how Johnny Munoz I thought was going to win this. I thought he was much better than Arishi Lang. I was so confident. How I was wrong. The judges' scorecards goes in favor of Arishi Lang. I didn't catch this one, but I know Oscar watched this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just feel like Johnny Munoz has had 2 flat performances in a row. He's not going for it. He's super low volume, and in 15 minutes only landed 7 significant strikes. He's just not. I don't think he's got the nastiness in him. Uh, so Arishi Lang definitely does. He was able to drop him in this fight. The striking was so much better, and he was not bullied by Munoz in the grappling realm either. He got 2 takedowns of his own. Munoz, even though he had those 3 submission attempts, it just was not enough.
Absolutely agree. And the first fight of the evening, JJ Aldridge took on Montana De La Rosa. JJ Aldridge as well, I feel like she's having a little bit of a, maybe not a career resurgence, but she gets some good wins behind her now. Obviously, if you look at her recent record, she's kind of picking up a little bit of momentum, should we say. So if you look at it now, she's 9-5 inside the UFC, 2 wins back to back, and they were just within months of each other as well. Naliang and Montana De La Rosa. So good wins for her. Another win. I think that's the way to put it. Just another win. She's getting by against Montana De La Rosa, who, if I'm believing saying, Oscar, you were quite confident that she gets the job done last week.
No, I was not confident, and I was less confident when I found out that they were training partners. And JJ Aldrich
Oh,
took it on short notice. I don't think she would take it on short notice if she didn't know that she had some edge over her, and that was the case here. Aldrich was a better boxer, and the takedowns were not there for McKenna like I thought they would be. That was the sole reason I picked her because of the wrestling. So yeah, bad night at the office for De La Rosa. Aldrich back on track after having a tough loss in her last one against Lipsky.
absolutely. Well, that was the first fight even, and that was UFC Fight Night versus Dawson versus Green. The card was decent overall, not too good. Obviously, the main event was fantastic. Bobby Green knocking him out, knocking out Grant Dawson in 31 seconds. Joe Pyfer as well, Jockey Buckley, Drew Dober. The main card really showed up. But yeah, decent card overall, and we'll keep it moving on to the next event. In the week yesterday, we had an event, and that event's called the Contender Series. So we will talk about that.
Yeah,
I didn't unfortunately get to catch that because unfortunately Lenny has to work and be up early in the morning. But I know there's a UFC lunatic that I like to talk to called Oscar Silva, and he definitely caught it. So anyone that impressed you, Oscar?
yeah, I really loved the performance from the first two competitors of the night because we got those two sick knee KOs. Who would have thought that we get knee KOs back to back? Lucas Roca knocked out Davy Betancourt. Betancourt won round one. He was out. He's dominated him with wrestling. But when he went for the takedown in round two, he got clipped, put out. And Markel Medeiros against Isakov, I did not see that coming. Another KO via knee. And I really liked Finney in his fight. He really was hurt early on in this fight, but he's just a powerhouse, man. He's really short for the division, but he's got this wrestling background. Reminds me a little bit of Darren Wynn if Darren Wynn was buff and he goes out there and takes him down and gets a rear naked choke. He's got no quit in him. That's what Dana White liked him, but he did not sign Finney. He said that Finney does not have enough experience. I think he might be 5 or 6-0. So Dana will
7.
definitely sign him once he gets a little more experience.
Yeah, 7-0 is Torres Finney. So yeah, five contracts awarded last night. So a lot of new additions into the UFC. Looking forward to see how they get on. I love the Contender Series. If I can watch it, I will definitely watch it. I'll definitely try and catch it. But yeah,
Yeah. And as for the
unfortunately,
main
sometimes I have
event,
to work early in the morning, and I have university and stuff like that. So your life is getting quite busy for me at the moment. But I'm liking it. We'll talk about the next event, and that is UFC Fight Night, Yusuf versus Barboza. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a fantastic main card. Main event is ridiculous. I love this fight. On paper, it should produce banger versus banger. Edson Barboza. You can't help but watch this man. You never know what's going to happen. It's crazy. Obviously, we've got Jonathan Martinez versus Adrian Yanez, Michelle Pereira versus Andre Pachowski. Wow. We'll talk about the main event first, and that is Sadiq Yusuf taking on Edson Barboza, the Brazilian. Edson Barboza has been in his spot many a times. He's been inside the UFC for a very, very long time. He's fought the best of the best. Justin Gaethje, you name it, at lightweight. He made that drop down to featherweight for a fresh beginning. A bit of a new start to see how he would get on. He's 17-11 inside the UFC. That is crazy. But yeah, he made the drop down. He fought, Makwan Murakami, Dan Ige, Shane Burgos, Giga Shikadze, Bryce Mitchell. He got that win against Billy Quarantino in his last fight, the knee knockout. And now he takes on Sadiq Yusuf. Sadiq Yusuf, I kind of feel like he's been in the same situation. I feel like we've been talking about this guy inside the UFC for a very long time. But, it's only quite little. He's only 6-1 inside the UFC. His only loss comes to Arnold Allen, which was, in 2021. He's beat Andre Feely, Gabriel Benitez, Shaman Moraes, you name it, Dylan Tuck backing off Brave CF, Alex Caceres, Don Shanis in his last fight. Now he takes on Edson Barboza. A tough ask. But the question is, I'm going to ask myself, who do I see winning? I really still rate Edson Barboza. I think he's got all the materials to get this one done. His striking is second to none. And we've got to look at what's coming opposite him. Do I believe that Sadiq Youssef can really wrestle Edson Barboza? Wrestle, take him down, hold him down, because that's ultimately what you got to do, Edson Barboza. Because if you let him up, he knocks you out with his knee, his ankle, his elbow, his head. He'll knock, even though it's illegal, he'll get a DQ for that. But he will knock you out with anything he wants. His heel. So if he stands and trades with Edson Barboza, I'm predicting he gets knocked out. And I think Edson Barboza is going to win.
I would have to agree with you there. Edson Barboza is actually an underdog, so I would recommend betting on Edson Barboza in this spot. The UFC loves to do these up and comer versus veteran fights, and more often than not, I will find myself on the side of the veteran because they have proven more to me. Sadiq Youssef, he's been in the UFC for many years now, but he rarely fights more than one time a year. The guy's been plagued with injuries. So he does have a lot of miles on him, like a Barbosa does. If you've seen these images of Barbosa as of late, the guy must have gotten the memo that you saw us out of the picture come next year because the guy is looking shredded, absolutely shredded, the best shape of his life. I think that Sadiq Youssef will have his hands full here with Barbosa. Youssef has got really good grappling, but I wouldn't say his wrestling is anything outstanding that will give Barbosa problems. Barbosa was really in a bad fight against Bryce Mitchell. That fight, he got completely dominated. It was almost as bad as the domination he faced when he fought Habib back in the day. But I don't think Sadiq brings that to the table. Sadiq likes the standing bang more often than not. When he fought Alex Caceres, he got one takedown, but he also got taken down himself by Caceres. Not a good look. Barbosa will really tear apart Sadiq Youssef's lead leg here. He will kick to the body. I love that Barbosa attacks all three levels, head, body, legs. He's the only UFC fighter to have finishes by kicks to the head, body, and legs because he's that lethal. So I think Yusuf will get outpointed here. He's shown his toughness before. He got his UFC contract by fighting a lightweight in Mike Davis in one of the best fights in Contender Series history. And he was able to go the full 15 there. I don't know how he'll look in a 5-round setting, but Barbosa has fought a 5-rounder before against Kevin Lee back in the day. I do like Barbosa's chances here. I think he wins a unanimous decision here, but don't get me wrong. We will see to Sadiq Youssef probably rock Barbosa at some point in the fight, and we're going to see what Youssef is made of here. So I really love this fight. Excellent main event. I know both guys don't have the biggest names, but you're going to see a very high quality striking battle.
Completely agree. Looking forward to it, absolutely. On paper, should deliver, but this is UFC and this is 2023, so we don't know what's going to happen. So we'll move on to that co-main event, and that is Jennifer Maia versus Viviana Araújo. This one, I think I'm very confident who wins this one. I think on paper, it's a very close matchup. Jennifer Maia, obviously, we kind of seen what she's made of in that Valentina Shevchenko fight. Almost had her number, but didn't. And obviously, we found out that obviously Alexa Grasso has her number a little bit. So yes, I'm looking forward to this fight to see how it gets on. But Viviana Araújo, her last 2 fights, she lost to Alexa Grasso and Amanda Ribas. Jennifer Maia has beat Miranda Moros and obviously Casey O'Neill. Took her undefeated streak, her undefeated record away from her and got the job done. In my eyes, I feel very confident that Jennifer Maia gets this one done. I think she's got all the makings to get this one. Maybe not to the ground. Maybe if I'm looking at we're looking at a striking battle here. But then again, that makes me feel not confident enough because I remember how bad Jennifer Maia is on the feet. So I'm hoping she takes it to the ground. I'm looking for a submission. But yeah, Jennifer Maia, I'm going for a more experience, been in these sort of situations before. So Jennifer Maia, I'm going for.
I'm gonna have to say this is the told you so fight of the week. I think that this fight will be very close. It will likely be a split decision, but I will have to go with Viviana Araújo here because I believe that she has more punching power. And Jennifer Maya, her grappling defense is poor at times. She can do it offensively, but defensively not as good. Arusha was able to take down Kaylin Shukagian uh, in their fight. I actually thought she beat Shukagian back in the day. I will have to side with Arusha here, especially as an underdog. You never know what's going to happen, especially in women's MMA, where underdogs win more often than they do in the men's fights. I will have to side with Arusha here. I think she can land bigger strikes on the feet, and I think she can grapple if need be.
Absolutely. We'll keep it moving over to the next fight. And this is probably my pick for fight tonight. On paper, should absolutely deliver. Jonathan Martinez, always in a scrap. And obviously Adrian Yanez. When's he not in a scrap? He loves a scrap. Absolutely fantastic. Looking forward to this fight. Adrian Yanez, obviously coming off the back of, his first loss in his career. So it's going to be interesting to see how he bounces back to losing to Rob Font. Obviously, there is no shame to losing to Rob Font. Number 5, number 4, whatever he is in the world. So that's no shame in that loss. He's gonna want to get on that back, because if you look at the wins he had before that, Randy Costa, Davy Grant, Tony Kelly, knocking him out, starching him. That's why he became such a fan favorite. Same as Jonathan Martinez. He's been around the game for a very long time, it feels like. He's fought the likes of Davy Grant. He got knocked out, though. Since getting knocked out by Davy Grant, 5 wins in a row. And if you look at some of the names on there, we're talking about Zavad Lavashvili, Alexandra Perez, Vince Morales, Cobb, Swanson, Saeed Nurmagomedov. There are some really, really good names on there. No slouches. This one is a tough one to call. Oscar, I'll go to you first. Who you got?
I'm gonna have to go with Adrian Yanez here. I do believe that he is much better in the pocket. That's what he has to do here. Martinez is a more complete striker. He uses his kicks a lot, but Yanez is more of a pure boxer. A lot of people says he has some of the best hands in this bantamweight division. I would agree, but he really got humbled by Rob Font in his last fight. Rob Font landed some good shots, and Adrian Yanez was a little frustrated there. He was trying to get some payback there, but in the process, he got clipped with Rob Font's best shots, and he got knocked out there. That was a tough pill for him as well, because he prided himself on his boxing, and he got outboxed there. Jonathan Martinez, we've seen him in many fights where he dominates the whole thing, but he will get clipped when he overextends. If you look at the Alejandro Perez fight, he got dropped twice in that fight, and it was because he would win the majority of the round, but then he would get a little complacent and then get dropped. I think we can see a similar fight to the Davy Grant fight for Martinez here. Uh, got Martinez got a knockdown on Grant in round 1, but in round 2 he got knocked out himself. We saw how Yanez versus Davy Grant went. Yanez was able to out technique him, land much better shots out there. I think we'll see Martinez get knocked out in round 3. I think Yanez has something to prove here. But I will say Martinez can make this interesting if he decides to grapple like he did in the Saeed Nurmagomedov fight. In the Saeed fight, he got a lot of control time up against the fence, and that was the game changer there that got him the decision. So this will be a close competitive fight, as you said, maybe fight of the night, and I actually think Yanez gets this third round TKO.
Yeah, good looking forward to it. I'm also siding with Adrian Yanez. I feel like he showed a little bit more thus far in his career. With the knockouts he's had with David, not knockouts, with the wins over Davy Grant, knocking out Tony Kelly. He's exciting. He's action packed. So make sure you put your eyes on this fight and they're peeled and they're ready to go. Because before that, you'll probably be wide awake because in a fight before that, this man, he loves to do his tricks, loves to do his flips, loves to do his cartwheels. His name is Michelle Pereira. He's slowed it down as of late. He's kind of slowed it down. More of a less fan-friendly style and more of a business-friendly style, shall we say. He takes on Andre Buchowski. And I've got to say, if he does his flips, his tricks, his cartwheels in this fight, he's going to gas out immediately, get taken down and wrestled. But then again, if you look at both these gas tanks, I feel like we're in a fight where whoever holds up the most in that third round is going to win.
Yeah, I think the big question here is will Michelle Pereira be able to defend these takedowns from Petrosky? Because whenever Petrosky can get his opponents down, he tends to win. One of the instances where he did get out grappled was the Brian Battle fight in the Ultimate Fighter tournament, but that seemed kind of like an anomaly. I think Michelle Pereira is a real middleweight. If you look at him next to Sean Strickland, the current middleweight champion, he's actually bigger than Sean Strickland. So he's not going to be undersized for this division at all. He fought at this division before. I think Petrosky will have a tough time keeping down Michelle. Michelle
Yeah,
with more
completely agree.
size. He's quicker. He's 100% has the better striking out there. Petrosky is more of a wild man on the feet, not all that clean. I think Michel Pereira will be able to stick and move the majority of this fight. He doesn't look for the crazy KOs like he did back in the day. So I will have to side with him to win by decision. His takedown defense has held up in the past. It's all about his gas tank here, and the gas tank will be improved that he does not now that he doesn't have to cut 15 extra pounds.
Yeah, completely agree. Looking forward to that one. Michelle Pereira is always an exciting fight. As I said, totally down the last as of late. But yeah, he heads into this one off the back of a good winning streak. Well, they both have really. So it'll be a good one to watch. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that one. But next one as well, Edgar Chavez versus Daniel Lacada, or should we say Lacareda. This one was meant to happen a few weeks ago. Excuse me. This one happened a few weeks ago. You might remember it happened. It happened. Edgar Chavez looked like he was on his way to victory. A premature stoppage happened. The fight was over. He kind of protested, and obviously it ended in a no contest. Here we are, just under a month later. They're going at it again, and I feel like that first fight, even though it was 3 minutes and 47 seconds, I think we could take a lot away from it. People are highly confident Edgar Chavez, and I totally agree. I just don't see, or that first fight doesn't really fill me up in confidence that Daniel wins this fight.
Yeah, I really believe that Daniel Lacerda is now UFC level. The guy, he's a madman in round one, but after that, not all that dangerous. And he was looking to pace himself in his last fight, but that didn't work out for him either. He got outstruck on the feet. He went for a takedown, and he could not hold down Edgar Chairez. Edgar Chairez gets him in this deep standing 18. Chris Taglioni believes that Lacerda's out. He clearly was not out. And now they're running it back. It's just for Edgar Chairez to get his finish. I think he gets his submission. I'll say round two this time. Maybe Lacerda plays it very safe, but at the end of the day, it's not going to work out for him against Chairez, who's a really tricky to deal with on the ground. Even for the big Japanese prospect Tatsuro Taira, he got stuck in that deep triangle at the end of round three. So I think Edgar Chairez is just miles ahead on the ground.
Absolutely. We'll move over to the next fight. You might remember the name that we're about to mention, Christian Rodriguez, C-Rod. Obviously, after his last fight, everyone's going to be tuning in to watch him. He beat Real Russell Jr. In a fantastic fight, the first man to beat him. And if I'm going to say, he kind of made it look easy. It was kind of a man versus a boy in that fight. But now he takes on a fantastic prospect, another prospect. It was like a prospect after a prospect after a prospect. He takes on the 9-0 undefeated Cameron Simon out of South Africa. I'm going to say it plainly. So I think Cameron Simon's a fantastic prospect. He's 9-0. He's 3-0 in the promotion. He's proved himself. Obviously, he's got 2 finishes inside the UFC already against Terrence Mitchell, but there's not really much we can take away from that one. Steven Kozlov, he got the knees on the uppercut finish, a standing TKO finish. But before that as well, he was a finished merchant. He was finishing everybody. And you got to look at what's opposite him. Christian Rodriguez as well. He showed a lot in his last fight. He's only had that one loss, and that was inside the UFC versus Jonathan Pierce, JSP. So, Oscar, who do you think is getting it done? This one is quite a tough one to call. But if I'm being honest, I think I'm favouring Cameron Simon, but just a little bit.
I really can't pick this fight with great confidence, but I really like what Christian Rodriguez has done in the UFC. He wins on the Contender Series, and then he fights up a weight class against Jonathan Pierce, who was on a big streak at the time, 6-1 favorite. He destroys Pierce on the feet, and on the ground, he gets a lot of close submission attempts. He's relentless wherever the fight goes. He submits Joshua Williams, and then he fights the hot young prospect Raul Russell Jr. goes out there, humbles him in rounds 2 and 3. I really like what he brings to the table. Cameron Simon, on the other hand, he gets a little sloppy here and there. Big time fouler. He didn't foul in his last fight, but he had really easy time there because he had an easy opponent. Takes him down, smashes him. I don't think he can do that to Christian. Christian has got good takedown defense. I think we're going to look at a lot of striking in this fight. And I do think Cameron might have a little more power here, but I also think that Christian Rodriguez can bring in some grappling of his own. I think we're looking at a very close fight. I will have to side with Christian Rodriguez here because he's fighting another young guy, and he's shown that he can be smarter than some of these young guys. I'm not gonna group Cameron Simon in the same class as Raul Jr., but he's a little floppy at times. I'll go with Rodriguez, the guy with a little more experience.
Completely agree. Looking forward to this one. Absolutely, going to be some fantastic fights, especially in the prelims. Looking forward to it. We'll move over to the next fight, and that is Darren Elkins versus TJ Brown. A battle between two veterans. Battle between fighters that have had a lot of fights. TJ Brown, 17 wins, 10 losses. Darren Elkins, 27 victories, 11 losses. Looking into this one, it looks a bit tight. Obviously, TJ Brown loses to Bill Alger in his last fight, and Darren Elkins, I feel like we've been saying this name for a very long time. He's been inside the UFC for a ridiculous amount of time. 17-10 inside the UFC. He last fought JSP, Jonathan Pierce, back in 2022, December last year. This one is very, very cool. Very, very close. TJ Brown, though, I really don't feel like he's too. I just don't think he's that good, to be honest. If I'm looking at his wins inside of the UFC, I just don't think any of them really have any legitimacy behind them. Really, I've got to be honest. Darren Elkins has been inside the UFC for a very long time, and as Oscar said last week, earlier in the podcast, more often or not, he goes with experience, and I'm going with Darren Elkins. And I'm pretty confident that Darren Elkins can get this fight to the ground and maybe in hope for a submission and get that submission.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Do agree with you that TJ Brown has a serious holes in his game. But on the Darren Elkins side, when I saw him get knocked out by Cub Swanson, I kind of hopped off the train there. In the past, he would be able to take some really big shots to keep on coming, but when I saw him get finished like that, I kind of lost, hope in him being much of anything. I do think that he's taking a little too much damage. TJ Brown has got some serious power on his hands. He was able to drop Kai Kamaka several times, and he trains with Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell is an excellent grappler, so I would have to imagine that TJ Brown is well prepared for the wrestle heavy approach that Darren Elkins will bring to this fight. So I do think that TJ Brown will piece up Darren Elkins standing, and let's not forget Darren Elkins has a ton of scar tissue, so it's never a good visual to see him bloody and battered. So I will have to go with TJ Brown to win a unanimous decision here. I think he stuffs the takedowns and really batters him on the feet. So TJ Brown here, quite confidently. I think you're muted.
My bad. I had to quickly sneeze. But yeah, we're going on different ends of the spectrum, so it'd be interesting to see how that fight goes down. We'll move over to a bantamweight fight on the women's division, and we've got two of them on the night. So be interested to see how the first one goes down. As Tainara Lisboa versus Ravina Oliveira, two Brazilian prospects. Be interested to see how this one goes down. Tyria Lisboa making her UFC debut, I believe. Oh no, she's 1-0 inside the UFC, beat Jessica Rose Clark and Renee Oliveira. This one, to be honest, if you look at Tyria Lisboa, she's got a lot of submissions on her record. Her only loss comes to Lorena Santos on Shooto Brazil back in 2020 when she was only 2-1 inside her career. She has lost to Norma Dumont, but that was her MMA debut. And obviously Norma Dumont's MMA debut. On the other hand, we've got Ravena Oliveira. If you look at her career inside the UFC, it's her beginning of her career inside the UFC. So she's making her debut. And if you look at her wins outside the UFC, I got to be honest, none of them really appeal to me. 0-0, 0-1, 1-1, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 8-5 in her last one. So let's be honest, this one's probably a close one to call. Out of sheer desperation and guesstimation, should we say, I'm going with Tainira Lisboa. She's got a lot of submissions on her record, and let's just say I'm hoping.
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be very tough to. I don't think it's going to be a tough fight for Lisboa. Oliveira has fought absolute cans. I'm not going to say that Lisboa hasn't, but at least she debuted in the UFC, fought a veteran in Jessica Rose Clark, and was easily able to submit her. For that reason, I will have to go with Tainara Lisboa to get a submission over Ravena Oliveira. I really believe that Oliveira should have at least proven herself on the contender series before making her way to the UFC because her body work is it's very poor. I will have to side with Lisboa here.
Completely agree. Looking forward to it. That was one women fight, and we'll move it over to the next fight. And you might recognize this name on the prelims. His name is Terrence McKinney. He's always an exciting fight, and if he's this low in the prelims, then damn, I feel like maybe he should be a little bit higher. He hasn't been on he hasn't been on the greatest run, but he did return back to winning ways in his last fight, so I don't see why he shouldn't be up. And obviously, he's entertaining. He's exciting to watch. But yeah, it didn't really go his way in his last few fights, but then he beat Mike Breeden. Now he takes on Brandon Moretti, or Moret. He's 8-1 inside his career, and he will be taking on Terrence McKinney, who's had a few fights. He's a regular name inside the UFC. And I believe Brendan might be taking this one on a short notice. Terrence McKinney was scheduled to fight Chris Duncan. That would have been a fantastic fight. Brandon Moretti is training partner of Calvin Cater and Rob Font. So he's got names next to him that are helping him improve. Outside the UFC, he hasn't really fought anyone of note. A lot of 0-0s, a lot of 5 and 8s. The only guy he lost to was 5-1. That was back in 2019. Since then, he kind of went on a bit of a win streak, 3-fight win streak, 8-4, 3-1, and in his last fight, 11-20. So this is a big test for Brendan. Does he get it done against Terrence McKinney, who we've seen is maybe UFC caliber, but not at the highest spectrum of it?
I think that we shouldn't be too long with this breakdown because the fight itself won't be long. Terrence McKinney has got dynamite in those hands. He's very quick, and if he wants, he can take you down and submit you. I don't think Marat brings much to the table outside of his boxing. He comes out of a good team for boxing, but I think that he does not have anywhere near the skills that McKinney has. I think McKinney disposes of him within 2 minutes. I just think McKinney has all the tools to make short work of him.
Completely agree. Looking forward to it. It's always good to see Terrence McKinney fight. He's entertaining. He's a scrapper. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. We'll move over to Irina Alekseeva versus Melissa Dixon, who's been on this channel before she got signed inside the UFC. I got to be honest, a little bit of breaking news. We tried to run this one back, but unfortunately, the schedules didn't match up. We couldn't get it done. Hopefully, after the fight, all goes well, I'll get her back on the show 100%. She's making her UFC debut. She headed into this one 5-0. Oh, her opponent, her adversary, the Russian, heads into this one 5-1. Her only loss, comes to Liliana Kazak, 8-6 back in 2019. She's not really had a good run, a lot of fights. In recent years, 2021, 2023, a long break. That was her UFC debut last time out against Stephanie Edgar, where she got the knee bar victory in her UFC debut. Melissa Dixon hasn't had that feeling yet, hasn't had that UFC walk, which could play a massive factor. If we look at Melissa Dixon, the way to really explain her, she's 32 years old. She's good on the ground. She's got really good ground control. Her wrestling defense is pretty good. Her boxing is, not too bad. So overall, I think she's well rounded. But if you look at her fight, she fought 7-0 back in Errors FC. She was scheduled to fight for the bantamweight Errors FC title, but she missed weight. So that could be a problem as she tries to fight a bantamweight again.
Yeah, I do think that it's going to be an interesting scene at the scales. Dixon has not fought great competition. Same thing with Alex Silva, but just like the Lisboa and Oliveira fight, Alex Silva fought a UFC fight and got a finish in the first round with the leg lock. And for her to have a leg lock game, I think will really separate her from the majority of this division. You never see leg locks in this division. A lot of people actually don't like fighting leg lockers because it means they have to train a lot of the defense for it. And I think Dixon will probably get caught in a leg lock in round one by Alex Silva. I think that would be a very smart approach because I don't think a lot of these women have the defense for those leg locks.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. I'm hoping Melissa Dixon gets it done. I'm also rooting for Melissa Dixon. So hopefully she gets it done. Moving on to the next one. The first two fights of the evening, we've got Ashley Yoder versus Emily Dakota and Chris Gutierrez versus, Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen, Alatang Haley, the Chinese man. Probably the best I'm ever going to do with that. That's phenomenal. Your first two fights of the evening. Oscar, who you got? What's her name? Spider Monkey, Ashley Yoder?
I believe so, yeah. I think this is a fight where the UFC finally cuts Yoder. Yoder has an 8-8 record. You never see an 8-8 record in the UFC. Yoder does not bring much to the table. She's more of a grappler than anything, but on the feet, nothing special. No pop behind the punches. I think she's really got her work cut out for her in this fight. An 8-8 record is just unexcusable. I don't think the UFC will want to keep her around if she loses this one. And I think she gets pieced up beginning to end by Emily Dakota. Dakota fought Jessica Penne, former strawweight title challenger, in her debut, pieced her up. Then she had to fight Angela Hill. Angela Hill, a much tougher challenge, and then she loses that one. She also lost to Lupi Godinez. Let's just say that Yoder does not bring anything to the table that Hill and Godinez bring to the table. I think that this is a very easy fight for Dakota, frankly.
Yeah, looking forward to this one. As I'm going through the rankings here of the UFC strawweight win. But yeah, I didn't realize you could see that. But I was just looking at rankings there. I'm nosy. I like to see what's happening. But yes, looking forward to this one. Chris Gutierrez versus Alatang Haley. Chris Gutierrez playing it simple. I think he gets this one done. I think he's really good. I think he's he's been inside the UFC for a moment. He's fought some really good fights. Obviously, he beat off the top of my head. I think he beat Frankie Edgar, knocked him out sharp with that knee. But he lost to Pedro Munoz. He was scheduled to fight Montel Jackson 7 days before this event, so it would have been last weekend. So yeah, this one now he fights Alatang Haley, who steps in at short notice. Fighting out of Fight Ready MMA. He's got a 4-1 record. He's only lost against Casey Kenny back in 2020. But I'm very confident that Chris Gutierrez gets this one done. I'm very high on him. I think he's really good. He's only lost, obviously, in his last fight. But other than that, he's looked good inside the UFC.
I honestly can't believe Chris Gutierrez is this low on the card. after he knocked out Frank Yeager on the main card of a Madison Square Garden pay-per-view. Now he's the second fight on a fight night. I think this is very disrespectful. The guy used to be on this crazy win streak. Now he fights Alatang Haley. I think this is a great fight for him. Alatang Haley will mix in the wrestling here and there. Doesn't have this crazy knockout power. I think Chris Gutierrez can piece this guy up from beginning to end. He's got excellent calf kicks, some of the best in the whole UFC. I think that will win him the fight here. He only loses to high level guys that can take him down or bully him with the power in their fist. I don't think Alatang Ali can do either. You're muted.
I'm an amateur this week, guys. An amateur. This is crazy. How long have we been doing this for, Oscar? Wow. Someone test me. It won't be his harder. Anyway,
It's been
that
3
was
years.
pretty much
3
UFC
years.
Vegas 81 in a nutshell. Sidney Cusi versus Barboza in the main event. Jennifer Maia, Viviana Araujo, Jonathan Martinez, Ainsley Yanes, Michelle Becerra, Andre Pachowski, Edgar Chavez, Daniel Acreda, Christian Rodriguez, Cameron Simon. There's some really good fights on this fight night. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up. What else could we talk about? I feel like there's a big influencer boxing fight happening this weekend. Oscar, does that
Yeah,
ring in?
I think it deserves our attention. I feel like these guys have done more promoting than the vast majority of people in the fight world. Dylan Dennis will be taking on Logan Paul in the co-main event, and if we're talking real talk, it's the real main event.
Yeah, will Dylan Dennis be taking on Logan Paul after the press conference shenanigans? We won't know. We guess we'll find out.
It's in jeopardy apparently because Logan Paul apparently has some kind of cut over his eye because Dylan Dennis hit him with a microphone at the press conference just an hour ago, and we saw Dennis actually face off with the backup fighter Mike Perry. So who knows what could happen there? The main event is not all that interesting to me. Obviously, KSI is going to get outclassed by Tommy Fury in that main event, but I do think that we will maybe see some shenanigans go down with John Fury and KSI's team afterwards because John Fury absolutely hates KSI.
He's a madman. He is a madman, by the way, John Fury. I don't know what he's made of. He's made of steel, honestly. There has been talks as well of John Fury making his Misfits debut, which that could be something in itself. That would be ridiculous. I'd love to see that happen. But yeah, as you can see here in the card, KSI Olajide Olatunji versus Tommy Fury. Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis. Obviously in the co-main event. Hopefully that goes down. We shall see. Not sure what will happen, but I'm hoping it goes down anyway. But yeah, KSI versus Tommy Fury. My quick take is Tommy Fury, as you mentioned, will outclass KSI. He's just got too much fundamentals for KSI. KSI can say all he wants. There's too much speed, too much power. He's unorthodox. Yeah, Fury has been doing this his whole life. But this is what a scene KSI thrives in. I feel like he thrives in an underdog situation. I'm going to be honest, he is the underdog. He has a lot to prove. But then again, I feel like pressure is again, obviously, on Tommy Fury. He is the professional boxer. He is the man to be in the influencer boxing scene, essentially. But yeah, so that is a lot of pressure in his hometown of Manchester as well. There will be a lot of people in attendance for him that have paid tickets for him to watch him, family, friends, you name it. So there is a lot of pressure on Tommy Fury. KSI has an uphill battle. His mentality is quite, the mentality he needs. The mentality is that he won't be defeated. Nothing can stop him. But I just feel like on this day, Tommy Fury is going to have his number. When you look at these influencer boxers and you turn to a 9-0 professional, I just don't think it's going to work. And I'm predicting Tommy Fury to get the job done. Logan Paul versus Dylan Dennis. I'm throwing it out there. I'm rooting for my man, Dylan Dennis. I want him to get it done.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Dylan Dennis is a guy that I truly despised before the build-up of this fight, but he's been a real character. He's brought a lot of eyes to this card, and he's been endlessly entertaining on X. I will have to say that I would like to see Dylan Dennis win this fight just to see Logan Paul absolutely lose it afterwards, and maybe we see a brawl afterwards. Who knows? A lot of craziness could be happening. But Dylan Dennis wants to go inside the UFC, and I believe that the UFC would be smart to bring in Dylan Dennis because if we're being real, Dylan Dennis is more popular, more well known than I would say 80% of the UFC roster. It's a sad situation, but that's just the way it is. The guy brings eyeballs.
Completely agree. And if the UFC comes to Dublin next year, he's not from Ireland, but you know he has a good friend over there called Conor McGregor. So,
You
and
bet.
obviously,
Connor's got a lot of pull. Connor brought in Lee Hammond, who got submitted in like 2 minutes on the Ultimate Fighter, and he brought him in because that's just the kind of pull that Connor has.
absolutely. And it would make sense. I think if he was on the Ireland card, the Dublin card in the UFC, he'd bring a lot of eyeballs. We're talking about a W card, but this one's Cage Warriors. I just want to talk about the main event and co-main event, and that's pretty much it. Paul Hughes, a lot of outcry on Twitter for him to get into the UFC. Ultimately didn't happen. Now he's fighting at lightweight. The Cage Warriors featherweight champion looking to defeat Jan Kornhagens. He will defeat him, and he'll get into another victory. Mason Jones, former UFC fighter, who had a good run inside the UFC. He had some good fights, some tough fights. He showed that he was UFC caliber. He takes on Jan Lianes in a co-main event, and I fully expect him to get the job done. And that's pretty much it that we're looking forward to. Leon Hill, he's a good Irish prospect, 6'1" pro. James Shenan, he's been in some good fights inside Cage Warriors. And Nick Bagley, of course. How could I forget him? Legend over there, Nick Bagley. Bringing one inside the UFC. Cage Warriors, he's an absolute machine when it comes to wrestling. So looking forward to how he gets done. And I've had him on a show quite a few times. So yes, obviously got to have that bias. But yeah, looking forward to the show. I fully expect Paul Hughes and Mason Jones to get it done in the co-main event and the main event. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up. That rounds up, Oscar. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, they just announced 2 fights. December 16th, UFC 296. They will have Dustin Jacoby versus Alonzo Menifield at light heavyweight.
Wow.
Yeah, and also January 20th.
That is a good fight, but I still feel bad for Dustin Jacoby. I feel he deserves a top 10.
Yeah, the guy cannot get a big name to save his life. I feel like some guys just don't want the heat that he brings to the table. And January 20th, Marc-Andre Barrios was supposed to fight Michel Pereira this Saturday. Instead, he fights Chris Curtis January 20th in his home country of Canada. So I would love to see that fight. I've been wanting to see that fight a while. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a good fight. Chris Curtis will bring the heat. He loves a scrap. So yeah, looking forward to that one. But yeah, that pretty much runs up the episode. A fantastic episode. We talked about UFC Vegas 80, UFC Vegas 81. We talked about Cage Warriors. We talked about Misfits as happening this weekend. And then obviously we talked about extended series. Blah, blah, blah. We wrapped it all up in this 1 hour episode. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Oscar, an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Be on the lookout for next week's guest.
Absolutely. Make sure you catch it next week. Thursday, same time. Make sure you catch it. And we have a guest. And we're talking about UFC 294. I don't have to sell it to you anymore. Make sure you're there next week. Catch you all.